When I first met Mrs. Eleanor Hayes, I thought she was just another elderly woman lost in the fog of old age and loneliness. But over the weeks I spent caring for her, I realized she was more than that. She was a woman who had endured more pain than most people could bear in a lifetime. I'm a home nurse. I take care of people who can no longer take care of themselves. It's not glamorous work, but it's honest. And every once in a while, a patient's story stays with you forever. Eleanor was one of those stories. Asterisk, she lived in a small, creaky house at the edge of town, a place that smelled faintly of old roses and sadness. The walls were covered with fading photographs, most of them black and white. A young couple smiling on their wedding day. A little boy in a school uniform. A family that looked happy, at least in those frozen moments. The first time I asked her about the photos, Eleanor's eyes clouded over. "That's my son," she said softly, pointing to the little boy. "Michael. He's all I ever had." There was pride in her voice, but also something else. Something broken. Asterisk, as days turned into weeks, I got to know more about her life. Eleanor had married young. Her husband, Robert Hayes, had once been charming, a factory worker with a quick smile and a bottle always close by. But the years hadn't been kind to him. The charm faded. The bottle stayed. Eleanor told me how she worked 2 jobs cleaning houses during the day, working at a diner at night just to keep food on the table for Michael. She did everything for that boy. New shoes every school year, hot meals, books he couldn't have afforded otherwise. But Michael was never kind. Asterisk, Eleanor said the cruelty started early. He would scream at her, throw things, call her names. Once, when he was 10, he hit her hard enough to leave a bruise. She never told anyone. She said, "He's just a child. He'll grow out of it." But he didn't. Even as a teenager, he'd spit in her face during arguments, take money from her purse, blame her for everything wrong in his life. And Eleanor, God bless her, she still loved him, still believed that if she worked harder, he'd turn out right. Asterisk, years passed. Robert drank himself to death. Eleanor barely had enough to bury him, but she pushed on, still determined to give Michael the life she never had. She worked herself sick so he could go to college. And when he finally graduated, she thought, finally, he'll see everything I've done for him. But Michael never looked back. He got a good job, moved to the city, married a woman named Samantha, the kind of woman who looked down on Eleanor like she was dirt under her shoes. Eleanor told me about the last time she saw her son before I came to work for her. He'd come to visit, drove up in a shiny car. His wife sitting beside him, sunglasses on, bored. Eleanor had made a pie, set the table, cooked all his favorite dishes. And when they sat down, Samantha laughed, said the house smelled like old people and cheap soap. Michael didn't defend her. He just looked around and said, "You really let this place go, Mom." When he left that night, he didn't hug her. Didn't even say goodbye. Asterisk, a few months later, Eleanor fell and broke her hip. That's when Michael decided to do the responsible thing. He hired me, paid for my services barely, and every time he called to check in, he made sure Eleanor knew he was paying for it. "Don't let her forget who's keeping her alive," he once told me over the phone. His voice was cold. Like a stranger's, I wanted to tell him off, but I didn't. Nurses aren't supposed to interfere. Asterisk, despite everything, Eleanor never spoke ill of her son. Every night before bed, she'd ask me to check the phone, just in case Michael called. He never did. One evening, as I helped her into bed, she looked at me with those tired blue eyes and said, "You know, I used to dream about him coming home. I used to think maybe when I'm gone, he'll finally understand. Maybe then he'll love me." I didn't know what to say, so I just held her hand and said, "You did your best, Mrs. Hayes. That's all a mother can do." She smiled. a fragile, trembling smile. Thank you, dear. You've been kinder to me than my own family. Asterisk that night was unusually quiet. No creaks from the house. No wind outside. Just the sound of her breathing slow, shallow. I tucked her in, turned off the lamp, and whispered, "Good night, Mrs. Hayes." She whispered back, barely audible, "Good night." "And thank you." Asterisk the next morning, I came into her room like always, sunlight spilling through the curtains. She was lying there, peaceful, still, her hands folded on her chest. For a moment, I thought she was asleep. But when I touched her, I knew Mrs. Eleanor Hayes had passed away during the night. There were no tears on her face. No sign of pain, just a calm expression. Like she'd finally found rest after a lifetime of heartbreak. Asterisk later, I called her son. When I told him, there was silence on the other end. Then he said coldly, "All right, I'll handle the paperwork. No, thank you." No emotion, just business. He didn't even ask how she went. When I hung up, I sat by her bedside for a while. The house felt emptier than ever, and as I looked around at those faded photographs, I realized Eleanor Hayes had spent her whole life giving love to people who didn't know how to receive it, but in her final moments, I hope she felt that someone, at least someone cared. Asterisk sometimes. It's not the loud tragedies that break us. It's the quiet ones. The ones that live in small, lonely houses behind closed doors, inside forgotten hearts. And I will never forget her, Mrs. Eleanor Hayes, the woman who loved until her last breath and never stopped hoping her son would love her back.